On his flight back from China today, there were two things very clearly on Trump's mind. The first being that China has a ballroom. He posted online that we should too. There we go. In another post, Trump announced that Washington, D.C.'s West Potomac Park will be the location for a sculpture garden that he has long pushed for. Trump first proposed this art project back in 2020 at the end of his first term and during the height of the Black Lives Matter protests. Now, after Trump saw protesters vandalize statues of Confederate generals and other leaders, he signed an executive order creating a task force to expeditiously open a national garden of American heroes with statues depicting a group of, well, mostly white men, from George Washington to Davy Crockett to Antonin Scalia, along with some abolitionists and civil rights heroes like Harriet Tubman and Martin Luther King Jr. There were 31 figures in total for that initial proposal, so remember that number. Because after Trump lost the 2020 election and Joe Biden took office, this whole thing kind of went away for a while. And of course, now it is back, and it is bigger than ever. Because according to the Washington Post, now the project will feature life-size statues of roughly 250 Americans. Added to the list are Albert Einstein, Alex Trebek, Dr. Seuss, and Kobe Bryant. At this point, it's hard to keep track of all of it and all of Trump's vanity projects. We have some of them on your screen right there. I mean, he destroyed the East Wing and the Rose Garden. He wants a triumphal arch so he can play being a Roman emperor. Now 250 life-size sculptures, I guess, is the latest obsession. And all of these attempts to physically imprint himself on Washington, D.C. just keep getting bigger and more expensive and harder to know who exactly is paying for it. Case in point, the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. We've talked about this week. But at first, Trump said it would cost about $1.8 million to resurface and paint the reflecting pool in front of the Lincoln Memorial bright blue. And if that already sounds like a whole lot of money to you, well, this week, the New York Times' David Fahrenthold reported that the project, awarded on a no-bid contract, now costs 7 times that amount, a whopping $13.1 million. Whew. Joining me now is David Fahrenthold, investigative reporter for the New York Times. All right, David, there are a lot of projects to be following and watching and paying attention to, and I think we're all grateful you are doing that. Let me start with one of the things you reported this week, that the Interior Department staff members have raised concerns about the quality and speed of the repair work that a contractor is performing on the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. You can see some of it there. It's uneven. There are bubbles in it. Explain what those concerns are and why is that important?
Well, this is a project that, as you said, is a no-bid contract. And the logic of giving out as a no-bid contract was that they had to go fast. They wanted to be sure this was ready by July 4th. And in fact, the due date for finishing the pool is supposed to be May 22nd. So it's ready for the summer of celebrations. The problem is it doesn't seem like it's going to make that deadline. And that's partly because the project is taking longer because there are these defects. You talked about bubbles and pinholes and other things in the layers of waterproofing that you have to go back and fix, and that takes time. And there's also a question about the unevenness of the paint, right? It's not all just one color of blue. It's a number of patches of blue. And there's some concern from the Interior Department about what will that look like when it's finally done and filled with water.
One of the things we've talked about a bit this week is that Trump kept saying, my pool guy, I have a pool guy. And, you know, he was going to give his contract to this pool guy. And then he kind of reversed course and said he had nothing to do with it. Do you know, you have paid attention to this more than almost anyone, what is going on with it? Where is that pool guy? Is he involved? How did the no-bid contract happen? Explain it to everyone out there, because I think people are interested.
Well, Trump didn't just sort of say this offhand. He made a big deal out about it in the Oval Office, and then he released a separate YouTube video where he told this story. And he said, you know, this reflecting pool has lots of problems. The Biden administration was going to take more than $100 million. Eventually, the story, it got up to $400 million. It was going to cost $400 million to do it their way. But I talked to my pool guy. He can do it for, you know, $1.8 million in 2 weeks. And so it seems like not much of that was actually true. Certainly, it's not going to cost $1.8 million, as you talked about already. But now, after we tried to figure out, okay, the people that he hired to do this job, they don't even seem to do pools. They're a company that repairs highway culverts and pipes and fuel tanks. They don't have a pool at all on their website. And they don't do Trump's pool, the pool that he talked about them working on in Northern Virginia. I don't think they've ever worked on it. So who are they? And Trump has now backed off completely from that story, as you said, and said, I don't even know these people. These people that I just said were my pool guy that I found when no one else could find someone to do this job. I don't even know those people.
So the guy who we were already concerned that was getting a big job because he was a pool guy is not even a pool guy, which is quite something. There is, and you've been reporting on all of these. We've been using tons of your reporting, just a series of no-bid contracts that are happening, which is not how it's supposed to work in government, just to state the obvious. How is this happening? Why is this happening? How abnormal is it? I know it's quite abnormal, but for people out there who are just hearing this term over and over again.
Well, in the law, this is not just a sort of a good practice, it's the law. The law says that federal agencies, when they give out a contract to do anything, buy an airplane, to, fix a reflecting pool, you are supposed to seek multiple bidders. And that's not just some good government guru sort of thing. That's capitalism, right? You want to be able to find the person who can do the best work for the lowest price. And how do you do that? You have multiple people compete for the job. What they're doing in these cases is the Trump administration is saying, we're not going to do that. We're going to just give the job directly to one person. And usually it's somebody that has a connection to Trump. And they said in this case, well, there's no time to seek multiple bidders because, we're so close to the 250th. This is a matter of serious urgency. We can't have a bid. They used the provision in the law that's really meant for wartime or natural disasters, that kind of real urgency. This urgency was just like, hey, we want to do this thing and we're way behind schedule. So the fault here, the danger here is the danger to Trump in that he might have found somebody who can't do the job or can't do the job that well. And if he'd gone to open bidding, he might have found somebody better who had a better idea.
Lots of dangers embroiled in here. Thank you for knowing so much about no-bid contracts and for following all of this. And thanks for being here with us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.